Good afternoon. Welcome to this session we have decided to organize around DEUS, a project that a number of partners across Europe has been working on for a year and a half, and which aims to position ourselves in the field of vocational education and training, and particularly targeting cultural and creative businesses. I think what I would start by simply saying, what is it that unites us? Because when you look at the internet and look at the many partners we have across Europe, what unites us is the belief that vocational education and training is extremely important for our societies. Sometimes an overlooked sector in a way, or an educational sector, but we believe it is at the core of how we take young people forward in many, many countries in Europe, and also how we manage to fight youth unemployment. To give a good vocational education training is at the center of our efforts. We also believe that the cultural and creative sector offers unique opportunities to find solutions to many of the challenges of our times. So when we combine these two, we think it is worth reflecting on how we educate and train young people in this vocational education and training, how we give them the skills and competences for the future. And before I give the floor, I wanted just to say, there was somebody who said quite wisely a few years ago when I was at a conference, that right now we are educating millions of young people with giving them skills and competences for jobs that do not exist today. It just underlines the need to teach differently, to teach them to develop and continuously evolve in their skills and competences in whatever sector we are talking about. And we have therefore focused in our DEUS project of finding new educational pathways and giving young people those skills for the future, not just the static skills of repeating what the teacher told you last week or what is in the books. So we have tried to find innovative and different ways of teaching young people in the vocational education and training sector. So before we go into the actual session of presenting where we are in DEUS, Caroline has just we want to test who is on the program here on our meeting, and therefore we're going to have a Mentimeter test for all of you, and we will do 3 or 4 of them throughout the afternoon.
Absolutely. So for all of those watching, I would like you to go to menti.com. When you do so, I think you can also find a direct link in the chat for those who are watching in the chat. Otherwise, you go to menti.com. We also have some instructions here on the screen. And then you put in the code, enter the code that is also here in the instructions. It's 17818897. When you do so, in a second, we will be able to go to the next slide and see the questions. And the way it works is you go on your mobile phone or your web browser, go to menti.com, put in the code, and then you vote for the different options in a minute when we go to the questions. And I think we have more or less everyone on. Should we go to the question?
Let's go to the question.
Here we go. All right. So first question, my current work role is mainly in, and then you choose one of the options here. And as Jens said, we're going to be running a few of these throughout the session, so do keep menti.com open on this code. You can always go back to it if you need to, and we would love your input. I see some votes already coming in. Wonderful. And for those who might be joining now, what you do is you go to menti.com and put in the code. Thank you guys for voting.
One, and then all the others are.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we go then into the actual substance of our afternoon? As I said already, vocational education and training is extremely important for all of us. One of the unifying elements in our DEUS project. We strongly believe in the importance of this sector of education for these young people. I'm therefore particularly happy that we have João Santos from the European Commission's department responsible for social affairs and inclusion, who is one of the key people in the Commission responsible for vocational education and training. And I know that you are generally responsible for the whole sector. As you know, we are in our little group of participating partners focusing specifically on vocational education and training in the field of cultural and creative businesses. But I would like to first, therefore, we start with your general across the board explanation of where you see us going in the coming years in this area. João, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I hope you are all managing to hear me well. And Jens and Carol, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So, well, Jens, thanks for the invitation. The last time I think I saw you was some years ago when you were my Deputy Director General in DG EAC. But time flies, and now happy to see you there promoting VET, which is an excellent way of continuing your work for education and training. So I would like, if you allow me, in the next few minutes to go through some slides. I've got some slides. I'll try to put them on. I hope it works. Just a moment. So all I've got to do is share my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, let me try. Let me know. Can you see it?
Something is happening.
Something is happening.
There you go. There you go. You're there.
But can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So, well, thanks a lot for inviting us to participate in this event.
João, just to interrupt you. Before we had a screen where we could see, I think, your first slide. Right now, I think we see yourself, your own card.
We're good. We're good.
We're good. Okay, it's working. Sorry.
Okay, fine.
Go ahead.
Good. So I will try, as I said, in the next few minutes, give you a picture of what we are doing in vocational training to support the cultural and creative industries, but not only, other industries as well. And I must say, I like the photo you had for the publicity of the event, because it has all these people coming from different parts of the world. And this is very much of the spirit that we have at the European Commission, in particular with the Erasmus program, of bringing people together, of, you know, progressing by lifting others, by bringing partnerships, bringing different ways of looking at the world, and together we create new things. So this is very much the message I wanted to pass. To congratulate you for the kind of event. Now, on creative industries, I'm not going to tell you people what is going on creative industries, because you know it much better than me. But you know, when I was preparing for this event, I was trying to look at what is the situation of creative industry, and I was quite surprised, I must say, of the tremendous challenges you guys are going through. Because I mean, there's loads of publications all over about the impact of COVID on the industry, and after tourism, I think you are one of the most affected industries for various reasons. I mean, even if COVID didn't exist, I saw some reports a few years ago of explaining how the global megatrends are affecting the sector, new, well, not only challenges, but also new opportunities to develop your sector. But of course, what the message I wanted to pass is that even if there are a lot of challenges, and you know them better than me, at the European Union level, we are trying our very best to come up with proposals, not only policy proposals, but also financial incentives to help industries go through this current crisis of COVID-19, prepare for the future, but not only that, but also prepare for the digital and the green transitions. I understood that in your particular sector, the digital transition is extremely important. And in fact, COVID sort of precipitated a lot of the pressure that was on the industry to integrate digitalization. But of course, this has implications in terms of skills requirements of the more than 8 million people that in Europe are working on the culture and creative industries. Now, just the last word before I go on concretely on what we are doing at the Centers of Vocational Excellence, also to say that the cultural and creative industries is part of one of the 14 ecosystems on which my colleagues from industrial policy are working. And earlier this year, we had an update of the European industrial strategy, and there's quite an extensive section focusing on your sector. But of course, it's all there. You know it better than me. I'm not going to repeat anything, but just to say that there is a very special attention being dedicated to your sector, not only because of the importance of the sector, but also of the ramifications of the sort of spillover effects that a well-functioning cultural and creative industry can have on many, many other sectors, on creativity, all those that require, you know, design, innovation, critical thinking. So your sector is not only the sector per se, but also the implications that's for the others. Now, going to what is my main area of focus, which is this European initiative on centers of vocational excellence. As I said, this was designed not specifically for your sector. It is a way of rethinking the vocational education and training system so that the vocational training is not only looking at itself, providing qualifications that every year it receives 4 million students throughout Europe and then provides them with a qualification over the next 3 years, but doing much more than that, really understanding that education and training and the needs of continuously understanding how society and the economy is going requires that we think of the education and training system in a very different way of what we've been doing until now. Education and training, I would say, is a business of everyone. It is no longer just a business of the education and training sector. And what we want with this initiative is, in fact, make sure that the vocational institutions throughout Europe, and there are many, that they are closely linked to what are innovation strategies at local level, regional development, smart specialization strategies, cluster strategies. So whenever you have a strategic focus on an activity at the local level, that the vocational system is closely linked to it, working with all the relevant stakeholders and ensuring that we create skills ecosystems to support all this economic and social developments in the various regions throughout Europe. And of course, to do so, it requires that we link up with universities. So we're not only focusing on our own belly button within vocational training, but also linking with universities, research centers, companies, chambers, cultural organizations, trade unions, and together we can understand where we are going as a society and ensure that education and training is supporting this, the needs that are there for this development. So while we were developing this concept, which I said has some novelties compared to what we were doing before, there were 3 key success factors that we want to support through Erasmus Plus. And I'm just saying this as a challenge because the Erasmus call was published on the 25th of March. It will be open until the end of the year, until the 7th of September. So until then, you can bring partners together and you can apply also for funding. We are funding each project that has a grant of up to 4 million euros. Projects running for 4 years. Rita Orlando can tell you much more about it because she's leading one of these projects, one of the pioneer projects that was launched back in 2009 as a pilot project. But basically what I wanted to mention is that the way that these projects should function is that they are based on strong partnerships. So the idea that we want the education system to be a live actor, to interact, to understand in what way companies are going, in what way culture is going, in what way the economy is going, and working very closely with them to make sure that the skills we are providing are relevant for the labor market. I'll just mention, Jens, because you mentioned quite a few times the VET for youth. You know, a reality that is developing lately is that it's not only youth that we are trying to serve, also the adults, because of the green and digital transitions. There will be a tremendous need for upskilling and reskilling. And we want VET to provide solutions for the more than 300 million adults we have in Europe, that much more than the young people in terms of numbers that will need upskilling and reskilling. And in this respect, I would say that the European Pillar of Social Rights, you know, we had a big social summit taking place in Porto, in my country, just a few weeks ago. And one of the targets in which all the member states agreed, as well as the social partner, is to have at least 60% of adults continuously participating in lifelong learning. And we want this initiative, and we want the VET centers to be part of that. But as I was saying, strong and enduring partnerships, alive to what is happening around, anchored in regional development strategies. So understand what is the strategic vision of a region or of a city for its future, and making sure that there's a close link between them, and then integration of activities. Education is not only about having a teacher explaining stuff, it is taking people to companies, taking young people to live experiential learning experiences, on work-based learning, on apprenticeships, providing these young people with incubators to start their own ideas. And I saw that the event you're organizing is very much about this creativity and coming up with innovation. And we want the vet centers to be a sort of a launchpin to not only provide young people and adults with entrepreneurial skills, but then also provide them opportunities to build on their creativity. And this is one of the elements we want. Very quickly now, just to tell you, the Centers of Vocational Excellence, we've basically clustered the kind of activities we want to fund with Erasmus Plus and the three big headings. One is teaching and training, where you'll see a set of activities that I've described there. I'm not going to go into detail, but includes everything from experiential learning, from project-based learning, from interdisciplinary learning, because it's obvious that innovation comes up, especially when you bring different people. You bring people from marketing, people from design, from manufacturing together. They think of a new project, they think of a new idea, and that's how creative learning happens. So we've got a set of activities under teaching and learning. We've got another set of activities under cooperation and partnerships. And this has to do with the idea that I mentioned before of going outside our bubble, understanding the world around us and making sure the education system is responsive to those needs. And the last set of clusters has to do with governance and funding. So ensuring that we have skills governance systems, that we are bringing the right people, that we are making sure that our ideas can be financed, because we can have excellent ideas, but if at the end of the day we don't have the right financing, we're not going anywhere. So these are the clusters of activities. This is very quickly just to explain to you what we are doing with the initiative, and to tell you that what we are doing is not rocket science, in the sense that we have excellent pioneering projects that we financed to test the idea in 2019 and 2020, of which DEUS is one of our, I'm very proud always of talking about DEUS, because as you can see, all the other centers of vocational excellence are more looking at, industrial sectors like advanced manufacturing, water sector, smart manufacturing, and Internet of Things, while DEUS sort of brings, different light of creativity and the cultural and creative industries, which we are very proud of having DEUS and Rita Orlando working with us on it. And to say that what we've done with these pilot projects is learn from them, understand in what direction they want to go. And we designed the initiative in the current Erasmus program for the next 7 years, in which we're going to have around 400 million euros to support 100 platforms of centers of vocational excellence. So bringing partners from all over Europe to work together, for example, on the creative industries, if you want to present a new project on it, in which we want to finance a different way of looking at skills, a different way of the education system supporting a societal and economic development. So Jens and Caroline, this is what I wanted to share with you. You'll get a copy of the slides. And if anyone wants to look into more detail on any of the things I said, you've got there the web pages. And of course, I'm always happy to answer. Either send me an email, or if there's some time for questions and answers at the end, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Jens.
No, thank you, João, for joining us today. It was a great presentation, and I think we feel a little bit proud here with also our partners who are around in the various capitals or cities in Europe who are part of the DEUS, of what you said about us, because we exactly set out to be different and to think different ways and to focus on how one can do better in vet education. I mean, everything is so static, and it is very easy to also go forward, as we've done always, with some adjustments. But I think what we have really tried to set the bar very, very high by trying to find new ways, pathways of education, and also challenging ourselves. And then furthermore, and you will see that in a minute when we presented what we've done, also how we have then tried to solidify and underpin our results. So we can even, I think, with some conviction say that it is something we hope and believe will ultimately, will benefit, be shared in many, many places in Europe, not only in our participating organizations, but also across Europe, because we do this for the young people. But I would also like to perhaps ask you here at the end, before we go to Rita's presentation, to simply say, you're absolutely right. This is not about only young people. In a way, we have the young people within an educational framework. So from my experience, when you and I sat in the same building, would be to say it is far, far more difficult to reach the 45, 50-year-olds and to convince them that they need an update in their skills. Not only do they have a life full of activities and jobs, but I mean, simply to get them the feeling of it. Have you any ideas, if you really say this is lifelong learning, how do we manage to reach I would even say older people in the sector and get them also motivated to start investing in it? How do we also convince the business community, because many of them have jobs, they are employed somewhere, to invest in an upgrading of the skills? I think, I don't know, I'm sure that the Commission has thought a lot about it. How do we manage to move that forward in the coming years?
You're right, Jens. It's I would say, the biggest challenge, because you know, we notice for many years that those adults that less need continuous upskilling and reskilling, I think everyone needs it, but those that engage less are precisely those that need it the most, those that are low skilled, the people that are going through restructuring, that usually are the first ones to get fired. I mean, the low skilled, that then have difficulty in getting back to the labor market. But to respond very quickly to your question, we are doing various things at the same time. On a policy level, as you know, the European Pillar of Social Rights, we have quite a few initiatives for it. We have specific targets for it. We are conducting campaigns, the European Vocational Skills Week, for example, to alert people of it. And of course, because of this big focus we have at the EU level now on the green and digital transitions, I think we are trying to convince companies of the importance for the strategic sustainability of Europe and our quality of life, that companies have to take a much bigger role in supporting their workers for upskilling and reskilling. And that's why we have, for example, the Pact for Skills. You might know that we are launching it. We are bringing together all the relevant partners, so education system, trade unions, employers, and trying to bring them together to collectively understand that upskilling and reskilling, it's not only a problem of the education system, it's a collective societal problem. And unless we manage to get it right, we are in trouble. But I think we are in the right way. But just to say, it's policy, but also funding. You might know that with the Recovery and Resilience Fund, there's quite a significant amount of funding that is going to be dedicated to the education and training sector, in particular upskilling and reskilling. And to tell you that, I suppose most of you know, we also are thinking right now in the Commission on proposing a council recommendation on individual learning accounts, which would allow each learner in Europe, every one of us, to have an account that would be specifically devoted to our continuous investment in upskilling and reskilling throughout our lives. We don't know if it's going to be adopted by the council or not, but to tell you, we are working on it. We are seeing all the various possibilities, good examples in France, in Singapore, in other parts of the world. How are they financing? How are they motivating financially? Because we have to do the two things at the same time. So motivate people, but also give them the conditions, the financial conditions to engage in continuous upskilling and reskilling. So we're looking at all these possibilities. You know how the process to come up with a new initiative in the Commission is difficult, Jens, but we are working on it, and we hope by the end of this year to have a proposal to submit to the Council precisely on empowering people, individuals, to decide how they want to pursue the upskilling and reskilling. I hope I answered your question, Jens.
You did, and we can't wait to see that. I'll at least be curious, but just to finish before I give Caroline the floor to go take on, I just wanted to say, and you know that we're both in the same system, that unless the employers are also convinced about lifelong learning and a constant upgrading of the skills and competences of their employees, then you may have people being interested, but it doesn't go anywhere. It must be something that is a shared responsibility, but it's also something that we need to convince the employers to accept, like you and I. I mean, you're still there, I was there, that a certain number of days every year is set aside to simply upgrade the skills and competences of the staff, also in the sector that we are talking about here, which is relating to vocational education and training.
Fully agree.
Okay, Caroline.
Thank you, Jens. Yes, I think we could continue this conversation for a really long time. So Joao, I'm really thankful that you're going to stick around for the end. Now it is my pleasure to give the word to Rita Orlando, who is manager of Open Design School and also the lead partner of the DEUS project, who I've had the pleasure of working with for the last year and a half. And Rita, you can share your screen and then the floor is yours. And I can tell the viewers that what you're going to see now is the fruit of a year and a half's work on what João has already presented and thank you for the kind words, very important and innovative project from the Erasmus Plus project. And we can see your screen now, Rita.
Okay. Can you hear me also?
Also that.
Okay, fantastic. So first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's really always a pleasure for me to listen to João. He's so, so committed, he's so inspiring each time that I listen to him. So it's really, really a pleasure. So we will try to make our best to expectations. So just let me understand in which way I can start. Okay. So
all good.
Okay, all good. Here we go. So as João has already anticipated to you, we will present you DEUS. DEUS is a VT project and is a quite complicated and long name, but it means European Open Design School for Regional Sustainable Development. And I will explain you later why. Our vision and our aim is to inspire new policies on training and entrepreneurship for the cultural and creative sector, of course, create also or consolidate, let's say like that, not also create, but only consolidate new educational and innovative trends for the cultural and creative sector, and also deliver a methodology for problem solving, which is based on cross learning, doing, etc. So it's challenging because what we are trying to achieve is to have, let's say, a formal recognition of something that mainly it's really informal. It's a learning that occurs informally. So it's quite challenging to do it. The DEUS partnership, of course, is made of different partners spread all over Europe. We have the pleasure to have with us CBN. We, as lead partner, represent Matera 2019, the former European Capital of Culture, and also the Open Design School, which is a design laboratory that has been established in relation to the European Capital of Culture. Then we have many universities, creative hubs, etc. So we have quite a good combination of educational institutions, cultural institutions, but also entrepreneurial ones, etc. So why DEUS? DEUS builds upon the Open Design School. Really, a design based on peer-to-peer approach. And it was the first time that the European Capital of Culture, as Matera did in 2019, established a design laboratory. This is quite significant because the European Capital of Culture, indeed, it's a festival that lasts for 1 year, but it requires 10 years, more or less, of preparation, and it invests the entire city. So it's really something that involves the city as a structure, as an infrastructure, but also citizens. So through the openness and the creative sector and the business sector and all, the entire civil society along with the institutions. So what we have done is to create this design laboratory where we could gather people from different disciplines that could work on real challenges to develop, to deliver real solutions in also common citizens, but also professionals, etc., etc. The Open Design School has some key values or principles, let's say like that. It is not hierarchical, it is multidisciplinary, and it is based on peer-to-peer learning. It is open to experimentation, and it really leverages on mistakes as a way to learn new things. It is open also because it is based on a validation process which is open to the entire community, so not only for professionals, but also the community can contribute to the design and delivery of projects. And especially it provides real solutions to real problems. So it's not just a place for design thinking, but it's a place where you design, prototype, test, and finally deliver all the solutions that you have worked upon. So the main output of the projects are, of course, related to a new training methodology for the cultural and creative sector, which is, which has been delivered and developed, of course, upon some focus group and surveys that we have run last year with different representatives from the cultural and creative industries. This training methodology, of course, has been developed in line with the European frameworks, and again, takes into account the need for entrepreneurial, digital, and soft skills. It adopts a challenge-based modular framework, and as always, also, let's say like that, an offer of a picks and meets assessment options so that people or professionals are able to follow the entire methodology pathway develop, or just pick the lessons that respond to the skill that they would like to reinforce. Along with this DEUS training, we have also developed another important output for us, which is the DEUS Living Lab, that is really shaped around the Open Design School methodology. So the Living Labs are really design laboratories where we identify real and adaptable solutions to local challenges. They are interdisciplinary and of course are based around this peer-to-peer approach. They are not only multidisciplinary, but also multi-target groups. So we aim at involving CCI professionals, local communities, policy and decision makers. We will deliver also a DEUS map that will identify commonalities to scale up the solutions that have been developed for local contexts to a European level. And also the Living Labs have also the goal to fill these knowledge gaps in combination with the DEUS training framework. Apologies. Okay, so as Shelley Dolan, our colleague from Trinity St. Wales University says, the DEUS offers a training program that is really shaped around the needs and the learning style of the cultural and creative industries. That is something that we have identified through research. The approach is education through challenge-based learning, and we will offer 3 different pathways to choose from. So challenge-based learning is really at the core of our training methodology, because as we have Imatera as well, and I think that it's pretty relevant to what Joao and also Jan were discussing before when we talked about adult learners and or less educated people, let's say like that, that do not recognize the importance of upskilling or reskilling. This challenge-based learning really allows everybody to be involved and to benefit from knowledge exchange with other professionals. Because in this approach, everybody is welcome. The contribution of each kind of professional or each kind of worker is very welcome to solve the problem, to identify the solution to the challenge. So it might really be beneficial for a lot of people, not only from the creative sector.
Rita.
Yes.
No, I just wanted to stop you here for a second, because this is really also one of the key issues, I think, in our whole DEUS. And I think it's extremely important. As far as I think that when you go into these training by challenge, there is no right or wrong result in the end. It doesn't really matter. It is the path. It is the pathway when you go into it that is interesting to help people develop and to be able to manage all kinds of challenges going forward. So I think this is really where it's almost revolutionary. When I studied and taught things, you got grades by simply being able to show the end result. They didn't care how you got to it. Whereas here, for us, it is extremely important that people who are participating in these challenge-based training, that the process they go through is more important in a way than the end result.
Absolutely, you are right. You got to the point. It's much more important the process than the result. Also, because when you work around, never the right solution, only one solution. You can build up different scenarios, and each scenario will lead to unexpected solution or to a mistake, but through that mistake, you will learn something new. And this is pretty much related to, please. Yes, Jens.
But also simply to say, in many of the things you're confronted with today, there is no right solution.
Exactly.
It is not that life is not that simple. So to train people to accept the complexity of it, this method is far more suited for contemporary and future training than the ones we have had for years.
Exactly, Jens. And yeah, you are right. There's never one right solution. And also this comes a lot from the design world, let's say like that, when you use prototypes before arriving to the final product, okay? And each prototype might lead to a new product that maybe you won't develop, but in the moment you are building up new knowledge, new solution, new creativity or whatever. So yes, the answer is yes. We don't mind about the final result. There's never the right solution maybe, because it depends from so many conditions that we don't know which one is the right one, but the process is far more important than the end result. I can see Barbara. Hi, Barbara, with her hand up. So please.
Yes, hello.
Barbara.
Sorry for being late.
Hi, Barbara. No, you're
hello,
not.
Jens.
You're welcome. Hi, Barbara. Good to see you. Commission is here in force. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. No, I just wanted to ask you, because we have been in other panels together, Rita, where this was discussed, that the process is more important than the result. I was just wondering, because last time we discussed about people being able to learn this process. Now, how would you document it? Can you give them afterwards a little booklet so that they can show it, let's say, to the parents or to somebody else saying, listen, that's what I learned today, and to remind themselves of what they learned? Is there some output like that, which could be inspiring for other projects?
Yeah, so for sure, this is pretty much connected to the next topic, which is Living Lab. But for sure, when we talk about challenges have to be clearly described with all the conditions around. So documentation it's really crucial in this kind of challenge-based learning. Documentation. So the challenges have to be clearly identified and described, along with all the, let's say, conditions around in terms of policies, in terms of other challenges, in terms of opportunities, obstacles, people that might become a resource or other material resources, etc. And while you learn, yes, you have to document what you do. And this is, again, it's pretty much connected to the when you have to develop a project, you go step by step and you document each phase. Yes, for sure. I mean, they will have the chance to gain, if they want, a formal assessment. Also, we have discussed a lot about formal assessment or recognition of this informal learning, because there are a lot of cultural and creative operators that, and this is based again on our research, that they don't feel that they need a validation of what they know or what they learn. Indeed, it's very important, because otherwise we never get to the point that informal learning has a formal recognition as well. No? Yes,
But Rita,
yes.
I just want to also come in. Sorry if I keep on coming in, but this is very extreme.
Please.
I think in a way what we have found is something that is going to be far more difficult for the teachers and the educators.
Of course.
Because it is so easy for them to have a checklist and say, you reach the right result, you get an A or whatever grade you get. This challenge-based education is more difficult. And that is why we have tried to develop the methodology to simply also be able to evaluate how the process went. And I think this is extremely important because in a way, let's be honest about it, there will be some of these challenge-based processes that are not successful. This is like in all educational pathways. And that should also come out. And people participating in them may be more or less successful in this kind of way. But we want to create an environment where the challenge-based process is the environment to create better thinking, more creative thinking, and better results in the end for the people, whatever grade they get.
Absolutely, Jens. Oh, and that's why, I mean,
it's more difficult for the teachers than sitting at home on Friday.
I can assure you, for the teachers, it will be crazy. And I mean, we had the chance. No. I say it because I know when we have started the open different guest professionals of any discipline to have lectures with us, or so to go through this, knowledge exchange, etc. And when we invited, I mean, the majority of university teachers, they couldn't really understand why we couldn't accept them just to speak and we just to take notes. It's quite challenging for them because it means that you put your students really at the core of your job. So you leave the floor to them, you leave the freedom to them to get totally, I mean, to be totally wrong, to arrive or to take an unexpected path, etc. It's part of the game. Of course, I mean, this does not mean that we will become suddenly anarchists. I don't want to say that. I mean, neither anarchists or that we don't need, I mean, let's say, part of formation that we have already, but a good combination of both. So it's quite difficult to find the right balance. Yeah.
But it does mean that we need also to upskill the teachers to be able to do this, because they have been trained perhaps 20 years ago and were taught how to pass on information in a very static way and to grade it. So now suddenly they need to be able to sit in groups with a challenge-based education and accept somebody saying what you're saying is rubbish. I mean, this is really this is culturally very difficult for some teachers, where the kind of authority they have in their role play is gone.
Yeah, but it requires, I mean, a totally new mindset. But I think that it's necessary also because the new generations, I mean, young students, they really have access to a vastity of knowledge on the web that their teacher didn't have, neither us when we were much more, I mean, expert in some disciplines than their teachers are. Let's be honest. So, I mean, it's part of the game, like trying to find the right balance between, the two generations or the two, parties, let's say like that. I don't know how to do it. I mean, I'm not a teacher, let's say like that. But I feel, and I can assure you that based on my experience, this kind of approach works pretty well. Students feel encouraged to do new things. When I talk about students, not just youngsters, let's say people or workers or creatives or whatever, I can tell you about, a friend of mine who was a carpenter. He's over 50. And after some experience of this challenge-based learning or knowledge exchange peer-to-peer, designers or students or curators or whatever, being a simple worker, now he has started his own research. He's trying, he's delivering some design product, etc. So it's possible. It's pretty much difficult, but it's possible. It can work. It requires a lot of time.
Trust me, Marita, you're never too old to learn.
Yes, of course. Trust me as well, Jens. Okay, just so that I will really quickly go ahead just to explain in which way we have, shaped this challenge-based learning tailored for the DEUS framework. I mean, when we started to work around this DEUS comp methodology and lesson plans, etc., it was quite challenging for us as well, because we really felt that we need a way to kind of approach. So we have made this exercise. We have totally designed, let's say, a challenge, which is related to our DEUS comp pathway. So the challenge has been clearly identified. We have designed this challenge where, I mean, you have a client, you have a donor, you have a city that will host a series of exhibition, and I mean, the students, or I mean, people that will follow our pathway have to solve this challenge. The challenge is pretty well described, but it leaves a certain kind of freedom. So, I mean, everybody can really design his own scenario. That's why before I was talking about scenarios. So we have the main challenge, but then, I mean, people can build different scenarios that will lead to different solutions, various solutions. So what we design the challenge and to develop the lesson plan really linked to the challenge. And for each lesson, we have also, designed a micro challenge that the students have to solve to complete that lesson. In terms of assessment, we have different kind of pathways that we have identified also for the formal assessment. You can, go through the entire lesson plan and get, a formal assessment. So a certification that will include a score from a mentor, let's say, or a tutor, but we have also left some space for group critiques and peer review. So other peers will assign a score to the student as well, because we really feel that is important also in terms of, let's say, again, giving the freedom, but also the responsibility to go through this kind of a new opportunity. Or you can decide to go through the challenge without getting any formal certification. So it's quite flexible and open. We have, you can see that each lesson has a sort of tag, because we have linked each lesson to the main European frameworks of competencies. So you will find, you will have the possibility to reinforce entrepreneurial skills or digital skills or soft skills or life skills, whatever we want to call them, for each lesson.
Okay, Rita, I'm sorry I keep on interrupting you, but
No
we think we should have a Mentimeter now. Also,
okay,
to be
perfect.
sure that those who are sleeping in front of their screens, because I don't know if it's as hot as it is in Copenhagen, difficult to stay awake.
We can wake them up.
We're going to wake them up by simply asking them to be active. And I don't know, I'm looking now at our masters here of this, because we have just talked about, there's something I pick up on what you said last. The question we have, do you believe possible to recognize formally informal training, which is the fourth question, or it's the third one here on my list. Could you bring that up? Okay, so we would like all our viewers and participants, because this is what Rita just referred to. Exactly. In a way, we have a process that can end with no formal recognition, and still you have learned a lot from going through it. But there's also, we know that we live in an environment where getting jobs and things like that, they will ask for your application and your application for diplomas or for some kind of a documented experience. And there we are in a field where we create a challenged education system. So do you believe it is possible to formally recognize informal training? And you can vote by agreeing or disagreeing in a 1 to 5 scale. It should be coming up.
Exactly, and it's still running on menti.com. And if you haven't logged in yet, you can log in with the code 17818897. And you can go and give a vote, as Jens was saying, and you can agree or disagree on a scale from 1 to 5.
Yes.
Can you please put the code on the chat, because
Yep.
I got the wrong code.
I request to have the code in the chat. It will come up, and I will also just repeat. The code is 17818897, and it will also be in the chat.
Is it coming?
Indeed it is.
Okay.
I think I have a slight delay here on my screen.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
So we can see there.
So Rita, you can continue. Sorry, it's just that while we wait for the result and people put it in, please go on.
Okay. Okay, so in terms of training methodology, I mean, there's one more, let's say, element that we would like to describe that is connected again to upskill and reskill. That is the living labs. So the living labs indeed are, let's say, again, design thinking laboratories where different people from different disciplines, but also decision maker, policy makers, etc., identify a common challenge, a real solution to it. So it's a way in which different people can be involved and can have the chance to use the DEUS comp methodology and our lesson plan to fill the gap of their skills that they will need to apply while they solve this kind of challenge. So, of course, this living lab leverages, of course, co-creation, collaboration, multidisciplinarity as innovative learning methodology, and also empower the creative professional and give them the opportunity to work together with other professionals from other sectors. And we were discussing before about breaking silos, breaking barriers about within the different sector of the society, enhancing this peer-to-peer approach. The objective is that the cultural and creative sector can really benefit from other sector professionalities and vice versa. In this way, I mean, we think that we provide also more opportunity for the sector as a whole to be better at the service of the future challenges. The main, let's say, the peculiarities of the Living Lab is that they are adaptable to the local context, because according to the challenge, there's not, again, just one receipt, but according to the challenge, you can identify the size of the team, the duration, the background of participants, etc. And also, again, as I said before, the Living Lab can also highlight the potential and importance of the cultural and creative industries or the sector to support the other sector and the society as well. What is very interesting is that this kind of methodology and the output of the Living Lab as well, even though they will be very, very much connected to the local context, because we want to, I mean, we aim at working on real problems, so pretty much related to the local context where the Living Lab will be developed, let's say like that. In terms of output, the lesson learned will be for sure, I mean, scalable at European level. So at the end, we will run like 10 Living Labs throughout Europe for the project. And so in the end, we will also collect the lesson learned, new methodologies, approaches, etc., that we will share, of course, on our website, so that at European level, we can understand in which way these new methodologies can be applied and can be beneficial for other cities.
Exactly.
So, Rita, can I ask a quick question before we move on? Because I think one of the extremely interesting things about this project. I know you have the creative platform, knowledge platform coming up, which is another one of my favorites. But for the living labs, we were talking in the beginning about green transition, digital transition, sustainability is a massive theme throughout all of Bright, especially this year with the creative economy for sustainable development. And being a project partner, of course, I'm a bit biased here, but just a quick mention and thought around how, the Living Labs is essentially building an environment where you're not only working together with the local community, using your upskilling, but it's also building an environment where it's possible to kind of find solutions for some of these challenges that we're looking into in other sectors, like how the creative economy and the upskilling within these creative skills can, find solutions for sustainable projects on a regional and national basis. And I think that this is just something that is extremely important to highlight when we talk about the Living Labs. I know we're going to come back to that, but maybe you could just connect a few thoughts to how, I know we've discussed this in the partnership as well, but how this is actually a tool that can lift not just a local community, but also lift some of these agendas that are really, top of mind for everyone we've talked to, at least in this conference.
Of course, Caroline, thanks for your question. So just to be very clear, when I talk about the local community, let's say like that, I really repeat local community, because to me, it's really, it's part of the stakeholder that really the creative sector needs to involve. And it's part, involving local communities also belongs to this peer-to-peer exchange of knowledge. So that, the majority of people can really benefit from other people's knowledge and can upskill or reskill even without being really conscious of what they are doing.
Oops.
So it's really a trick to involve, more people and to be beneficial to more people. You are absolutely right. The Living Lab, it's not only for the local community, it's for many target groups. When we talk about decision makers, policy makers, cultural and creative professionals or business professional entrepreneurs, etc., we talk about really a huge and diversified group of people that can work together, and mind that local challenges are always connected to biggest challenges that are national scale, at European scale, and global scale. So yes, for sure. Also because the Living Labs, as you know, will require a precise description and identification of the challenge. And these will also go through identification of challenges, national policies, European policies, because those conditions can suddenly become either rules but opportunities. So yes, for sure. What we will do at local level, I think, and we know that we will use this approach, we really take into account that we are really developing, we want to develop a methodology to solve also the big challenge.
And perhaps just to add to that, that the fact that we can sit here in Copenhagen and talk to you in Matera or wherever you are, and with João in Brussels, and with Manuel in Brussels, it shows that we don't, there are silos in so many ways, and one of them is, of course, a geographic one. You can simply involve people in some of these living labs who sit 1,000 kilometers away, and in a way break the, and simply involve far more people, and have this kind of inspiration from even Veneto, if I were in Italy or whatever. So great. I think we should move on, because Rita, I think this has been a very clear and interesting presentation of our project that we say here, because you are the project manager or boss of this, but we are proud also of this DEUS project. So it's been great to present it. I think the next is also then to talk about the validation workshops, which is the next thing. And I don't know, is it, we have different people who participated in it. We had Daniela from our side, and we had Nicola from Wales, and we had Gisa from Linz, and Raffaele also from Matera Hub. Are you all on here? Because I think the interesting thing is a little bit to take it. You can probably hear that we are all convinced that we've done a great job, and we would always say so, particularly at this stage where we are. But I think one of the things that is really a quality in what Rita has presented is the work method we have had in the project group. That we have not just come up with brilliant ideas of challenge-based education, but we have also had a method of verification that I think we believe will underpin and make our results and our recommendations credible to the Commission, to João in the end, and to, in a way, ultimately Manuel, who is the man on the ground, who will work on these things in Belgium or in other countries. So I don't know whether Daniela, are you joining us?
She will be in a second. I think maybe, Nicola, we can start with you and just hear a little bit about the validation workshops that you have done. We're about halfway through with the workshops, I can say, in the project. So about half of the partners have done validation workshops, had the evaluations of the validation workshops. But Nicola, could you let us in on how did your validation workshop go and what were your results?
Yes, of course. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you all. Basically, we did a how to pitch workshop. So it was a demonstration of the how to pitch training session. We did it at the beginning of June, and it was presented by our colleagues in Finland and in Wales. And it was a mixture of creative professionals, students, and entrepreneurs. So it was a good mix. I think what the challenge was to create that informal atmosphere online. That was really difficult, I think, but it worked in the end through Antti and Annie's delivery. We sort of started the how to pitch where normally you'd have introductions, but that became part of the training session. So everybody wasn't allowed to introduce themselves until later on, which was really good. We used the platform Padlet. We had breakout rooms where the participants went into breakout rooms, and we mixed colleagues from Finland and Wales. So that idea of shared knowledge, I think, was a big aspect of it. But also, I think our participants found it a great networking opportunity, which, like you said earlier, wouldn't happen geographically if it wasn't for teams. So I think that was a real positive. So the overall consensus from the workshop was that the presenters made them feel relaxed during their pitches. So they had timed pitches. They all had to pitch to each other at the beginning of the workshop, and then at the end they had to pitch again, and you could see it was evident in how the pitches they'd really improved since the beginning of the workshop. So implementing that training had really helped. So from the feedback that I've got so far, obviously we've got to study the survey feedback, but the feedback I've got from so far was really favourable, I can quote some of the feedback that I've had. It was a great opportunity to build confidence, practice training, and get the content of a pitch right. I think someone also said that they'd really struggle in networking in large environments, but were good at presentations. So the actual pitch workshop helped in that respect. And another one was someone was able to pitch to a large audience, but the time pitching exercise was a great way to define the content of the pitch and build confidence. So overall, so far, I think it went really, really well. And it was just a snippet of the actual training program. So real positive results so far. And now we're working on the Living Lab Challenge, and some of those participants are going to join in that as well. So it's a really positive result.
Great. I mean, I don't know, we just then, of course, Giza, you want to come in and here and tell us how your workshop went?
Not sure if
is she there?
Giza on yet.
I can't see. Well, then perhaps Rafael from Matera, you also ran a workshop.
Yeah, I can give you some feedback on that one. Hi.
Okay,
Hi.
great.
Thank you, Becky.
You're welcome. I was there. You too.
Yeah.
So we ran one yesterday within Bright, and Gabriela, my colleague, helped us as the trainer. The demo content that we used for the validation workshop was the Matera Hub Creative Project Canvas. It was the planning lesson. And I think that there's one piece of feedback that really stuck out for me, because we had the opportunity in our validation workshop to really concretely test the challenge, the DEUS Comp challenge that Rita presented earlier on. And really that's what's interesting about DEUS Comp, because the idea that we had in our heads was that we create one overriding challenge with then micro challenges. And the idea is that when somebody gets to the end of the training program, they've actually put together a really complex project. And we were really curious about that, because that's where we started mixing, the experience of the universities in our partnership, and then the sort of hands-on experience of people like Matera 2019. And the observation that was given yesterday was that they said, the challenge was actually far more complex than we would have expected. But in a good way, because it made them think. And for us, that's what we wanted to achieve, because life is complex, projects are complex. And so that was the aim for us, was that it needs to be challenging, so that when they do their micro exercises, they're really getting into it. And so that was something that I was really happy to see, that worked, and that helped sort of stimulate exchange with the peer-to-peer exchange, which is what we're all about. So that's my main feedback.
But I think that's a very interesting one, because in my previous job, we once in a while tested people by challenging them on something there was no solution to. Because we simply wanted to see how people, sometimes you are confronted in life with things that just doesn't lend itself to a solution in a primitive sense. And how do people navigate in that situation? How do people in a group work on it? And how do they approach it? And therefore, the fact that it's a complicated and complex challenge, and it may hopefully most of the time lead to some kind of solution, it is how it opens the minds of people. Because it's not arithmetics. It's not arithmetics. It is the method their mind is forced into in discussing with other people that is so interesting.
Exactly.
And,
but also,
and we did that in the commission.
Yeah, just one more thing, Jens, is that because, the training program for DEUS Comp is designed to support the living labs as well. So it's not only responding to the needs of the CCI professional, but it's also a practical instrument designed to help any knowledge gaps that living lab participants might have. So they're dealing with a real problem. So that's great, because in that scenario, they don't need the DEUS Comp challenge. They don't need anything hypothetical. They need to adapt it to their real challenge. And so it's just, that's what makes it, I think, really interesting. I'm very curious to do the living labs now.
And also, in a way, if you'll allow me, simply to live with very complex challenges. The people also mentally are ready to confront that life is complicated once in a while. They shouldn't get stressed. It's part of the environment you're in professionally and in life terms, to accept these things, and how you learn, in a way, I say that as an older man, how you learn not to get stressed by certain challenges. And therefore you can in a way navigate far better within them with that. But I think this is a very interesting message you come back with. Okay, I think we also now have Daniela who's joined us.
Yes.
And Daniela, you also run a workshop.
Yeah, in fact, we run our workshop for trying a pitching session during the academy, Creative Business Academy. That this Creative Business Academy was especially made for our national partners that were selected in our competition by our national partners. So Creative Business Academy is the online development and internationalization course for startups within the creative industry. So we had a very good speaker. We have Antti also, so he's amazing. And everybody was entrepreneur. They have their own startup, of course, that are with the creative industry. And everybody agreed there was a super interest challenge and very nice way to approach these kind of topics. And actually everybody enjoyed it because they were kind of relieved and relaxed when they pitch each other, when they have the opportunity to talk with each other and get the feedback. I think that was the most valuable thing for them. And of course, we have a very nice comments, like it was great. They have the opportunity to strengthen their network, meet new people. And it was an enjoyable interaction way to approach this challenge. So I think that's the most interesting part of this.
I think this is what we hope, in a way. I mean, this is why we have these workshops, in a way. It was exactly to get feedback, not only from the partners ourselves, but also to hear from others, how they would respond in that environment. I still come back to my key message that this is our challenge will be to convey this to the teachers and to the people who are in the field of education or re-education, to really convince them about this. And I think therefore it is incredibly important to take these messages you all bring from the workshops with us to say it works and people are very, very comfortable with it.
Yeah, exactly. And it fits perfectly because, of course, we're running our global competition. So they were really eager to be improved and better for this kind of topic. So it was great.
This is like throwing a thermometer into the water and get a feedback from it. No, I think this is good.
I just want to see, I see we also have Paolo from Matera Hub. And Paolo, I don't know if you have something to add in terms of validation workshops as well.
Hello, everyone, first of all. And I'm here in representation of Matera Hub. Well, what I would like to add is that, of course, having usually in European projects, you develop training programs and you maybe have the chance to test with just a very limited number of potential users. And then you leave for a phase that is maybe happening in the future or maybe not. While, the work of validation that we are doing now is, collecting very relevant feedbacks directly from the people that, already contributed in the very first step by giving us their specific needs, because we don't have to forget that the training that we have developed is based on an in-depth analysis that we were performing at the beginning of 2020. That is now even more relevant because, as we know, the creative and cultural sector is slowly coming out of an incredible period, unexpected period. And so I think that, it is super important for us to generally validate what we are offering them. And I really think that what Jens was saying is very important. We need not only to bring around the table the final beneficiaries, which are the people from the creative and cultural sector, but also to create a dialogue with educational institutions at all levels, which are the ones who have to try and find the best possible flexibility in order to change the way they are delivering educational program to reach and become more useful for the sector and the needs of the sector and the specific learning style of the sector. And I think this is happening inside our training offer. So that's very positive feedback that we are also collecting from the validation workshops.
Okay, no, great. So it would have been worrisome if we here in June 2021 had suddenly found through the workshops that it didn't work. So I think we are relieved that we have spent 18 months on this, that when we tested on not only friends, but the friends were all friends, but who were sharing their honest views, that it's been a very positive feedback. Okay. I don't know whether any of the people we have also invited to sit in here and who are not in the speakers list want to come in.
Have any questions? I have to say to those on the other side of the screen, we can't see if you raise your hand, unfortunately. So do feel free to speak up.
Yeah, I wanted to turn to Manuel, because Manuel, we know each other from way back. Manuel actually took me into some organizational work on Erasmus Plus a couple of years back. And you are a man a little bit different from this, but still, perhaps you should say yourself, but you're working for the French-speaking community in Belgium, and you take young people in the field of education on mobility programs to, let's say, Portugal, and go into and work in the businesses, like, say, the fashion industry or something like that. And therefore, this is exactly going into the very ground of it. How do you get these skills, and what are the feedback you get when you listen to us here? We have built this program, and we will come shortly to how we hope to roll it out in a way. But can you see that this would be helpful for vocational education and training on the ground in giving skills and competences to the young people, which it is all about.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Jens, and thank you a lot for the invitation. It's really a pleasure to participate here. So yeah, that's right, I'm working on the Erasmus mobility. My job is to promote the Erasmus mobility for the French, for the schools, the vet schools here in Belgium from the French-speaking community. I work in a department of the Ministry of Education. And it's very interesting. First of all, it's very interesting to hear, to talk about cultural and creative industry systems, and how to know how cultural and the creativity is so important. After here with the COVID, the pandemic, there is culture is not essential. It's not an essential sector. So it's a really pleasure to talk about culture and creativity now. Also, what is very interesting, it's the questions about how to motivate adults on the lifelong learning, and mostly maybe how to motivate lifelong learning. Because
Manuel, try to move a little bit closer to your microphone. We are losing the sound a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Better.
So how to motivate teachers to go on the lifelong learning, because it's for her and for my job, because I work not only to promote mobility of students, but also to promote mobility for the teachers. And we have a real problem to motivate them to go abroad and to go to go to the companies also here in Belgium to get skills and update their skills. So I think it's very important to have projects like this who can give us some do you hear me, or to give to have some tips and to have material and to have also I think it's very important to them how to make the lessons more creativity, to make the school more creativity. Because we have always a big problem with the early school leavers. We can to give some manuals to the teachers to improve their classrooms, to improve the way how to learn, how to teach. It's very important too. I don't, and that also it's very important also too. I like what I like in your project. It's the word creative industries, because you know that vet school and it's mostly in Belgium. It's not. It's when you go to the vet school, it's because you cannot learn in the school. So it's a second chance. When you go, it's the second choice when you go to the vet school. When you go to learn to be a mechanical cars, to be a carpenter, to be a cooker. It's always the second choice, because you failed in the traditional school. So to give the good position and to give to talk about creative industries, it's very important, because it will change the image that we can have of the vet schools.
But I think, Manuel, I think this is in a way the nutshell. In a way, we have fought for years to fight the hierarchy that to get certain educations is something parents are proud about. Their children go to university and things like that. And if your children end up going to a cooking school instead, it's a little bit considered like you were not good enough to go to these. And we fought this for so long because it doesn't really recognize the individual young person's aspirations, dreams, and talents. And we was really fight this. This is also why this project is so important, because it creates an environment for training and education that is so different than from the classic ability to repeat what the teacher said last week. We are looking for young people who are creative, who are problem solvers, who see potential in and can change jobs over their lifelong life professionally. So I think you're absolutely right that this was the case, but we are really trying to make sure that gradually the society comes around to say we have just as much need for the plumbers and for the electricians than we have for the mathematicians. And people should feel it like that. There is no hierarchy in people's lives in that sense.
Yeah, that's right. That's why it's so important to have this kind of lab and this kind of material for the school. So I will be very happy to receive your all you are trying to do, and if you can send it, I'll try to send them to the schools, and also maybe to organize a workshop here and to know all the teachers of the schools who will receive your project.
Okay, no, we will. I mean, last time you invited me to come and speak in Sofia, so next time it may be in Brussels, which is slightly easier for me. But anyway, thank you, Manuel. That was great. Are there any other who want to come in at this stage? We can't see hands, as we said, because of the technical setup. So.
But one thing I can see is that we are joined by Gisa from Creative Lens, who is also one of the project partners of DEUS. So Gisa, maybe just a few minutes of your input and feedback from the validation workshops that you've run.
Yeah, thank you very much. Warm welcome, sorry for being late. We had a validation workshop last week with creative entrepreneurs experienced in entrepreneurial training and being educated. And I think we had fabulous feedback of the focus group on the content of the training. I think if the content is covered, what's needed for running creative businesses, but I think what they are really looking for is the pathway to transfer and communicate this content in their individual learning journeys. I think that's the crucial point. Solo entrepreneurs as creative entrepreneurs are lacking of time, are lacking of collaborations, and we have really finding on the point tailor-made ways to individualize the learning journeys for creatives. And they don't want to have any classroom sessions as they have too much time for it. So I think there are some really good examples on how to learn, especially this DEUS Comp approach of challenge-based learning is they're very open for that. And we also discussed mentoring system. They know that's high-level class training, having these one-to-one sessions based on individual needs. But I think that's an approach they really loved. And and what they also need is this community building, this peer-to-peer learning. And for that, they asked for building a safe space, building safe room for them to get atmosphere and this kind of safe space of guarantee this peer-to-peer learning and starting collaborations and ongoing community building and community keeping the community alive between these creatives. I think thanks to the whole DEUS team, it seems that we are on the right way, bringing tailor-made education and training to creatives. And one thing I'd like to add, because it jumped in on Manuel's topic on making young people creative. And I think what we need is not killing creativity of young people. I think they are creative in their DNA. They are born creative, and it's not the teachers, but it's the school system fading out this creativity DNA out of these children. So just that's a comment as a mother.
Now we spent an hour and a half agreeing. I would slightly disagree with you. As a former education man, I would say not in your country, I don't know it well enough, but in many countries, the school system kills creativity because the pupils are taught to study books and repeat what is in them, and to listen to the teacher. Some countries I've been in, they're even sitting and writing down like they are taking dictation from what the professor is telling them. And if you can repeat it to the word next week, you get a good grade.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, I have always said you can't teach creativity, because I agree with you, it is in everybody, but you can create an environment where it can come out, and where you actually recognize it. And even, as you say, even if you say something is completely mad and crazy, it should be recognized if you are coming up with a wild idea. This is what we in Creative Business stand for. We want young people to start businesses, running their dreams, and start businesses and some of them many of them fail. But the one who comes through is the new Bill Gates or something like that, who has a brilliant idea, and many others have it in all kinds of areas. So I think we need to create an environment in the educational system and throughout the society where creativity and wild ideas are recognized. Anyway, that was a very good final say in a way. I think we have a final point on our program today. I don't know whether it's Paulo, you're the one who is going to tell us a little bit about it, because we are going to talk a little bit about I have it here, we had the mythology, the platform.
Yes.
The Creative Knowledge Platform.
Paulo, is that you going to speak a little bit about that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great.
So what we wanted to have to support the work that we are doing was not only what was happening inside, real life, but also an online support. And we didn't know actually in January 2020 that the world was going to turn digital so much. And then like two months after we met in Matera at the kickoff meeting. But actually we had clear in mind that we wanted to try and create one open space for all the different targets that our project is approaching. So the creatives for sure as a main target, but also policymakers, educational institutions, practitioners, and stakeholders from other sectors interested in understanding how creative and cultural sector can foster innovation in non-creative settings. So we have a little bit changed the initial idea of this creative knowledge platform to turn it into a space where there might be a collection of what has already been developed in the past year around education, around research, toolkit, initiatives, and interesting reading about the creative and cultural sector, but also opening a space for new knowledge to be generated, always with this concept of keeping it open for everyone to contribute. And then one thing that I think it's going to be very, very interesting and important is that while we are going to develop the Living Lab, so we are going to work on concrete challenges and trying to come out with effective solution involving the creative and cultural sectors and other stakeholders in the different regions that are part of this partnership, we are going to host also online the tools that are going to be used, the feelings and the engagement of the creative people that are going to participate, and very, very important also the solutions that are going to be produced in every Living Lab. And the idea is that in this platform we will try to create a sort of map of Europe through the challenges proposed and the solution found. Because we strongly believe that there are some common challenges that are the same for the creative and cultural sectors all over Europe. They are related to skills gaps, they are related to funding, they are related to dialogue with policymakers, while there are others that might be very much local and specific. We would like to map and compare how in every different regions covered by the project, we will approach and solve or try to solve concretely these challenges, and give the opportunity through a map of Europe to share and activate that peer-to-peer learning that was mentioned before by Gisa. And I think it's one component of our educational offer that is very, very tailored on the needs of the creative and cultural sectors. Also on how to, try not only to solve the challenges, but also start a process that will bring all the stakeholders that we need in order to jointly discuss and solve the challenge, to reach the right level of awareness on their role in solving that challenge, the specific skills that might be proper to solve that challenge. So we will somehow offer a space for this discussion to going on. The platform has also a community where the key topic that we are going to cover will be open for different participants to discuss about that, not only the one that will be practically involved in the solution of the challenges in the living labs, but with a more European perspective, all the people that might be interested in what we are trying to solve through the living labs approach. And of course, the vision is that we might be able to generate a one-stop shop for everything that is coming also in the next 7 years. There are very interesting opportunities in front of us in terms of the new European fundings, in terms of this new flagship initiative that is the new European Bauhaus, and this cross-sectorial approach to the new role of culture and creativity in shaping the future of Europe, making Europe more inclusive, green, sustainable. So it's going to be very, very interesting to understand how, through our platform, we are going to be able to facilitate this process. And I think and hope that what you were saying, Jens, about creating this ecosystem, this environment that should be able to support creativity at all levels is something that we can contribute to create or facilitate, because there are all the right ingredients for a successful recipes, and we really hope that the already numerous community that we have now in the platform during the beta testing phase will become even bigger thanks to the local interaction that we are going to have with the living labs.
I think I just want to say, I mean, this is exactly where we are and why this is so important. We need to instrumentalize what we've done, that it just not becomes another study or another project. It's very important for us. And I think I read it in one of the papers not so long ago that we have an opportunity to crossbreed Silicon Valley with Bauhaus, and this is what it's about. The Americans may have a head start on Silicon Valley, which is 25 years old or something like that. We have a head start on Bauhaus in a way, which is almost 100 years old, and which is why Mrs. van der Leyen has launched it. So I think if we combine those two tracks, we have an amazing point of departure for culture and creative businesses and creativity in Europe, and therefore also for injecting some interesting elements into the educational pathway in the sector of veterinary education.
And I just want to add to that, Jens, talking about instrumentalization and the actual training program. I know that we also have Dario Mazzella from the Digital Skills Program Manager of RWS here. And I would actually love to hear, Dario, your take on some of these training programs and approaches that we've been discussing today, because this is a essentially what you do at your job every day, the instrumentalization of this sort of training.
That's correct. That's correct. So thanks for asking. And by the way, thanks for inviting me. And first of all, hello, everyone. So for me, it's very interesting to see what you are doing, to witness this, because we as a company, we are investing a lot into vocational education training, running multiple projects all over Europe and beyond. And this kind of methodology, it's extremely interesting. I mean, of course, our deep interest is into all IT related projects. So, I mean, of course, arts and creativity, but not only. But this kind of methodology is definitely interesting. So it's something that I would like to, deep dive into, and it's a great interest for me to know this for sure.
Thanks, Dario.
Good. That links us to the real world, so to speak, which is what it's all about.
Exactly.
So thank you for joining us.
And Rita, I would love to get back to you a little bit, because now we've been discussing a lot about instrumentalizing, getting training out into the real world, validation of the workshops, the methods and all of this. But getting back to the living labs, I know that we have just a little bit more of, as I know Jens likes to say, beef about the living labs. They can do a bit more and connect us to the real world in a sense. And I'm sorry, I can't see Rita right now. Is she still
Is Rita still with us?
Do we have her? Or is she... We lost Rita.
We lost Rita.
I think.
We might have lost her. We have an unstable internet in Matera today.
Yeah, we noticed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll see if Rita gets back then to us at a later point.
Yeah. All right. In a way, I think this brought us through the formal program in a way of what we wanted. No, there, Rita's there. Hi,
have
Rita.
you back, Rita.
We were worried. You are gone.
We lost you for a while.
Yeah.
Yes, don't worry about that. I was just getting back to you and the living labs, because as I was saying, now we've heard about the validation workshops, we've heard about the methodology, we've gone through what it is that we have created, asked questions out into the real world, as Jens was saying, and I would just love to connect that back to the living labs, which is essentially where we're not going to end the project. This we can discuss at a later point, but this is going to be, at least within the project period, one of the last things that will transform inside of this project. And of course, we can always discuss how the project goes on from there, especially inside the platform. But going back to the living labs, I know that you have a few more details that would emphasize what it is this project is doing.
Okay, yes. So about Living Lab now, again, the name Living Lab, I mean, we choose this name because it's a methodology that is already, let's say, recognized at level. Essentially, the Living Lab, it's really as to say that we take the Open Essay School as a model, and we share this model with Europe, and hopefully other people will be better that we have designed so far. So the idea of the Living Lab, again, what it is to bring together different professionals, and it's pretty much connected to what Jens was saying before about the new European Bauhaus. It's really, the Bauhaus was one of the main, let's say, projects that have inspired the Open Essay School as well. So it's really putting together different professionals from different disciplines, bringing them together to work on a challenge and exchange knowledge while they work together. This happens if there is, again, the freedom for everybody to use its skills and its capabilities at its best, not only if you don't have a boss or something that tells you what to do. So it's pretty much related to the freedom to make mistakes, or to the freedom to say, hey, I've got an idea, without having the feeling that you will get a score for the idea that you propose. So everything is possible there. So it's really an environment where people feel welcome, feel at ease, because there's nobody that will assign a precise task, but it's the collective intelligence that identifies the way in which things will evolve. This is very, very much important when we, especially when we put together professional that comes through from different world. So imagine we have done it. Creative professionals, artists, together with people, with experts in public procurement. It's pretty funny because, I mean, there are two different kind of words, two different kind of languages, vision of the world, etc. But at a certain point, they have to work together if they really want to create an effective solution. So this is really the challenge. And not only professional, but also the decision maker and policymaker. What we recognize as well is that sometimes policymakers are really far distance from the real world. So they don't have a deep knowledge in many cases of the needs of the different sectors or what happens in the real life, real society, etc. So also the involvement of policymakers is pretty much beneficial to create a solution that is feasible, it's manageable and can be developed. That's why it's not just design thinking, brainstorming, but really related to taking into account also the barriers, the preconditions, etc. And there's one more ingredient, which is the community. This does not mean that we recognize that everybody are, I mean, professional, let's say, at the same level. We recognize that people have different expertise and that the community, let's say like that, the community of people can bring ideas, but professionals have the right competencies to, I mean, let's say, take into account these propositions from the community and make them work for a proper solution. So it's a combination of different actors, it's like that, neither stakeholders, but really different actors that work together. It's very important what Paolo was mentioning before about the platform, because the platform for us and the community that we have in the platform, it's really the digital counterpart also of the Living Lab, because the platform can really enlarge the community of people that contribute to the solution of a challenge and can really, I mean, provide knowledge exchange, new, I mean, values, bring other perspectives, other solutions, etc. And hopefully we will have more, I mean, contributors from the other sectors, not only for the cultural and creative industries, but also for the business sector, from the productive sector. So really, this is, I mean, it's a challenge for us as well, but it's really what we think it will be, I mean, the challenge of the future to me. I mean, it's the way in which I think that we will face what the future will offer.
No, I think again, you're onto something, but one of the challenges in a different sense of the word is time. People will need time to spend together to have such a living lab work, because that is essential. And there I can see people who are already very committed. I don't know, did we lose Rita again? I think I lost her, so I'll speak to her another time. But I think there is an element of it. I would just add, no, Rita, you're back. Good. I'm just saying one of the key challenges. One of the key challenges will be time. If you say also decision makers, some of us have worked with politicians for decades. And to go and say to them, you now have to be part of a living lab and spend time dialectically thinking space and new ideas. You know, I don't know in Matera, but I can imagine in many places the politicians will say, speak with my secretary and find an hour next Tuesday. I'm just teasing you. I think because one of the things in Bauhaus is that they met, and some of these brilliant minds spent years thinking and inspiring each other. It was not something they delivered on a work plan for October or something like that. And that was, of course, a very interesting thing. So I think Living Lab is so important. I will add an element before I give it back to you, is that since we're talking about a European project, that in such a living lab, ideally there should be people coming from other countries. So that because they bring exactly a different perspective to the reflections, different culture, different educational background and things like that.
Yes, Jens, thanks for this question. again, you got to the point. So yes, first of all, time constraints for policymakers, decision makers, etc., etc. There's one of the tools that we can use, I mean, to involve them or to give them their part of responsibility or to offer them the opportunity to contribute, even though they don't have time, are rituals. At Open Israel School, we have weekly meetings, open reviews, where, I mean, everybody can come and contribute, share ideas, and blah, blah, blah. And this is quite good for policymakers as well, because it's once a week, 1 hour, half an hour, after I mean, when their job is over, for an aperitivo, maybe in an informal setting. So it's not, yeah, no, yes, it's not a duty. It's very informal, but it's in that case that you really can grab the most out of them, or that they can come maybe and meet people and talk to each other about, I mean, the variety of the geography. This is something that I love a lot, because again, the Open Israel School is based on 1/3 from the city and the region, 1/3 from Italy, 1/3 from the rest of the world. This is really, I mean, a recipe that we have used here in Matera, and it works, because you are right. When people come from different cities, from different countries, they bring with them different perspectives, which are cultural, but also related to their geography. I think that it's pretty much important in people's life. So they bring with them different perspectives, different experiences, etc. So again, that's why we strongly decided that we should have a digital platform, not only as a repository, but again, as a place, as a community where people from all over Europe can talk to each other and contribute to other people's challenges.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw João coming up on the big screen here, and that may be a sign from our masters who are running this meeting that we've now gone through the various points. I think this was, for even me, who has been following this from the sidelines, except from spending a fantastic few days in Matera a year and a half ago, or almost a year and a half ago. I've been following it a little bit through my colleagues. I think it was an amazing update on where we are and the great work we feel we have done. But João, in a way, you are representing the Commission, and therefore, is there something you want to say from what you've heard that you found was particularly interesting? Because we have tried to be innovative and different. You showed before on the screen the many, I'm sure, fantastic projects that you are funding, and I don't want to bad talk anybody, particularly since they're not here and can't defend themselves, but we think we are kind of the best. So I just want to say, so if you were to say, I thought this was particularly interesting from your perspective, since you see so many things, what would it be from our, or slightly under 2 hours of discussions today?
Yeah, thank you, Jens. Unfortunately, I'm not lucky like you that get to go to Matera. I couldn't do it, but in any case, what I'd like to mention— You
should, I can tell you, you should. It's a fantastic place.
I hope you invite me after this.
I will speak with your hierarchy and make sure you get a mission to Matera.
Oh, thank you, Jens. No, well, you know, what I particularly liked is this, most of the discussion through these 2 hours went on all the things that I would classify under, you know, innovative methods of teaching and training, which in my opinion is fundamental. You know, we have this big challenge of coming up with the education and training system that can speak to people. You know, I'm talking about young people, you know, young people, the new generation, they were born with mobiles, they were born with a different way of interacting with school. You know, today you have, and I think you also mentioned, the discussion also touched upon teachers and trainers, and the challenge it is to convince teachers and trainers that were taught 20, 30 years ago in a university on how to teach, how, you know, all the pedagogical kind of approaches, and now see that, you know, things are changing dramatically, very much because of digitalization. But today you can have a 10-year-old that, you know, you just ask him what is the length of the coast of Portugal in the Atlantic, and in 5 minutes he'll go to Wikipedia or somewhere and he will tell you. A few years ago this would be impossible. And you can have a learner today that is capable maybe of accessing information quicker than a teacher, know things that maybe the teacher doesn't have. So the whole relation between teachers and learners and the methodologies for teaching and training have to change radically. And I think that the discussion today touched very much upon it. And even when we're talking about, and you mentioned at a certain point, Jens, in the beginning, you asked me, and how can we convince the older generation to go back to upskilling and reskilling? I think, of course, if we want to increase the participation in lifelong learning, and we expect adults like us to go and sit on a chair in a school, we're going nowhere. So we have to find new ways of interacting, new ways of giving people the possibility of engaging in lifelong learning. And I think that these kind of experiential approaches, what you were talking about, you know, these challenge-based learning process, in which you're not asking people to sit down, you're giving people real problem. We have an issue here. How do you think we can solve it? And by solving the problem, you go through a learning process in which you interact. You do it in a more lively way. Maybe the teacher, you're not expecting the teacher to tell you, you do this step, this step, this step, and then do this, and then put the cable there or whatever. You just providing a space where people's own creativity can come up, where you are really fostering the critical thinking, the entrepreneurial attitudes, the critical attitudes of looking at the world and trying to find opportunities to solve problems permanently. And I think if we manage to have an education system that does this, we'll be able to captivate the young people, because they feel more that the school is in touch with what is their sort of upbringing and the new realities we have. And we'll be able to convince the adults to engage in lifelong learning as an act of pleasure. They're doing it not because they're afraid they're going to lose their job, but because they like it, they enjoy it. And we have to find ways of doing it. And I think in that respect, this project has helped by the kind of innovative approaches that it is proposing for teaching and learning. But I would say that, you know, I'm quite positive, even beyond, of course, responding to your question, Jens, of course, this is the best project that Erasmus funded, but there are others, I would say, also very good. And, you know, one of the pleasures I have of working at the Commission, and you know that very well as well, Jens, is that we have the possibility of having the luxury of being in Brussels, but speaking with everyone all over Europe. We have the possibility of being confronted with what is happening throughout Europe. And, you know, before COVID, I was traveling quite a lot, going to vet schools all over Europe and seeing wonderful work that is being done in the Netherlands, in Spain, in Italy, in Germany. You know, there's really a lot of innovative people that are trying to rethink everything every day. How can we, you know, bring the vet providers to engage with companies for apprenticeships? How can we give opportunities for trainers in companies to come to vet schools to learn new pedagogical ways of teaching and training? How can we make a teacher leave the school, the comfort of the school and the classroom, and go to a company, understand that the learners that they are training are one day going to a workplace and are going to need to develop certain skills. So these kind of partnerships in a live process. Another example, which I think is also relevant for cultural creative industries, within the COVES, this initiative on Centers of Vocational Excellence, we want to incentive new ways of working, like, for example, working on applied research. There are small and medium-sized companies throughout Europe that have been in the market for a very long time. They know a new product or a new service that they could put into the market, but don't know how to develop it. We want them to see the vet providers as partners in this process, that they can come to a school, they can say, look, my company, we are only 3 people. I don't have a research center. I don't know how to develop this, but help me in it. And I think that these kind of, it's very much related to challenge or project-based learning, but real world problems in which we help companies solve a certain issue. And at the same time, we provide opportunities for learners to be in touch with what is real world demand and work on it together with companies, trying to solve the problem, with people that have been working there, with the teachers and trainers, helping them get the things through. So it's all this kind of innovative ways of learning, using simulators, using virtual reality, all these kind of ways of doing it. And what we want from a European perspective, I think that's the beauty of Europe, that, you know, we can sort of see good examples that are out there. You know it, Jens, we are not specially illuminated in Brussels. We are gray guys, but we try to do the best.
But don't be so modest. I still have an apartment in Brussels.
No, but what I mean is that we don't necessarily, because we are a small unit, we don't have the solutions for everything. But what we do have is the capacity to bring all the stakeholders together, understand where good things are happening, and then come up with funding instruments that help you replicate this. And I quite often use, when I'm describing the Centers of Vocational Excellence, this motto that a Swedish Swiss company uses quite often, of think global and act local. And I think this is, you know, the sort of the key word of what we want. We want people to interact with each other. You know, in Denmark, see what Spain is doing good, what Denmark is doing good, what the Netherlands is doing good, Italy, work together. But then, of course, translate this into your local reality, because the vet centers, schools, university, whatever, you are providing people with skills for that particular labor market. But don't do it just looking at your belly button. Look at good examples out there. And if you want to do it, the message that, you know, we have with Erasmus funding, for example, is that we have European funding to fund your dreams. Do them. If you follow these things, we don't know how to do it, but we have a framework. We know what we want to fund. Bring the partners together and do it. And I think that what we heard today is really very encouraging. It adds to many other very good experiences that I said that I've seen throughout Europe. And I hope that you can make good use of the very significant financial resources that the member states put at our disposal in Erasmus+. You know that Erasmus+ is considered one of the most emblematic programs that Europe came up with, that contributes to European integration. And the member states and the legislative authorities gave us a doubling almost of the program for the future, which means for VET in particular, we'll have 400 million euros for this initiative on Centers of Vocational Excellence, which is a lot of money. And we have the financial resources to fund almost 2 million VET learners and teachers in mobility in the next 7 years. 2 million. It's more than we've done in almost 40 years of funding mobility. So we have tremendous resources there. And even when we're talking about all these innovative learning methods, try to incorporate in your projects, thinking, how can I do this? Also, how can I take advantage of mobility experiences and to give my learners the opportunity of going to other countries and learn from what is being done there. So just a word of encouragement, Jens, to you and to all the people that have worked on this DEUS project, to thank you, first of all, because I've mentioned this to Rita many times. You have been pioneers, that you risk going ahead without knowing exactly what this coves would be. And you have helped us in the process by doing so, by being innovative, by taking a step further when no one had done it before. You were the pioneer, 5 pioneer projects of doing it, but by doing so, you've helped also Europe to develop a project which I hope can be a good contribution to modernize VET provision throughout Europe. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you today.
Well, thank you, João. I think I can say that while this was also a status, sharing with you where we are, I can promise you that we are dreamers and we will come back to you. We're not exactly asking for the 400 million, but I can guarantee you that we will be coming forward with dreams that we would hope you would agree to finance. Also because we feel that it allows us to challenge ourselves. I think what brings together in this consortium, and I see the faces of some of the partners, is exactly that we bring to such a group many different perspectives, and we have been able to inspire each other immensely. And we are by that coming up with innovative, different ideas and reactions. So I think, I promise you, we will continue to dream and we will continue to ask for the Commission's and the EU's support in realizing this, also for veterinary education and training in the field of culture and creative industries. So great for having you here. And shall I finish by simply saying thank you for having been here this afternoon.
Exactly.
It was a great meeting, and the work goes on. We haven't finished, so for some was thinking this is it. No, it is not. We still have work to do, but this was a great meeting before we all, I think, go away on deserved holidays. Thank you for coming, and bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.